We again started the stakeholder process in the fall of 2012. The rulemaking was in February of 2014, so that gives you a time frame for how long the stakeholder process took, which we knew would take a while, given the number of issues, the concern with the regulated community, with landowners, with the environmental groups, with municipalities, local governments. A lot of people were very interested in what we were doing and wanted to participate. We had a wide variety of positions on it and a wide variety on what exactly we should do, how far we should go, how fast we should go, what we should regulate, how we should regulate it, etc. We started to break down the meetings. We would have meetings with just industry, we would have meetings with environmental groups, trying to figure out what were the positions of the various stakeholders. We then tried to come up with smaller groups of representatives from all the major stakeholder groups, had meetings with them, progressing very slowly forward, because again, depending on the stakeholder, they were willing to sit down at the table and try to hammer something out, or they were just even questioning our authority to regulate methane. We encouraged groups to meet separately. We said, look, if our being in the room, if the state being in the room makes conversation difficult, we're fine with groups talking amongst themselves and trying to figure out what makes the most sense that will bring them all to the table with some kind of consensus position. And that ultimately is what happened.
This was a collaborative effort to develop these rules. It demonstrates that we can work together. We can have this energy that we need, this economy that we want, and the environment that we deserve.
EDF worked very hard with 3 operators, Noble, Anadarko, and Encana. They, and probably others, because we weren't in the room, but they spent, as I understand it, a lot of time hammering out what works, what doesn't work. Part of the issue for us as regulators is we don't fully understand how the regulations can really be implemented in the field, how difficult it is for an operator to implement them. If the language that we're using really makes sense to them and how they, like I said, how they can comply with the requirements. So it was really critical that you get the operators' buy-in to really think about what's an effective regulation. At the same time, we wanted to make sure that whatever we came up with were meaningful and really achieved true reductions in hydrocarbons, not just methane, but across the board, but including methane. So we needed experts in the field that knew how to measure it, knew how to really understand what the reductions could be or what would be expected from what were being proposed. The hearing was in the spring of 2014. I think it was a 5-day hearing over the weekend. It was again very controversial. 5 days is a long hearing for any of our commissions, but certainly on one subject, the Air Commission. It remained controversial. There was a fair amount of opposition to it. Again, there were stakeholders that were arguing that we didn't have the authority to regulate as we were regulating the methane. Nevertheless, the Commission adopted the regulation pretty much as it was introduced. They made some minor modifications to it. After it was adopted, we were, I will confess, concerned about whether or not it would be challenged. It wasn't. We were very pleased. As a matter of fact, the trade associations in Colorado rolled up their sleeves and worked with us on training modules, on frequently asked questions. They helped us get the word out on how to comply with it. And I think it's been a success. We're, like with any regulation, we're getting feedback and we're looking at how can we clarify some things or make things more understandable, maybe shift things around a bit so that it makes more sense. But so far, I think we're achieving the goals that we were looking for.